All right, hello.
How's it going?
Good. Oh, not good, mate. So if this turns to a mess, it's not your fault. You came to a rescue. To give context to the audience, the battery died of the camera. Then I tried my camera and the aux cable didn't read it. So Brent came to the rescue. And now we're using his camera.
iPhone to the rescue.
Yeah, plug. All right. Well, we don't have any product providers, but all right, iPhone gets a shout out. Yeah. So I'll be curious, apart from being cool, calm, collected in the face of uncertainty, what's your background? What got you into the insolvency, the shareholder agreements, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Man, I just went to university, had no idea really what I wanted to do. So I just did a big generic set of papers. Standard. So I just covered everything. And when I graduated, it was the tail end of the GFC. So beggars can't be choosers. And I sent my CV out to like 250 firms, even if they weren't advertising. It was like, here's my CV.
Yeah.
And then I got a gig. It was a temporary gig, and then the very next person that hired me was an insolvency practitioner. So just fell into it. I thought, hey, I'll just do this for 1 year, and then I'm getting out of here. I just needed some experience, and turned out I actually really liked it. So,
what do you like about it? Because that's an unusual thing to say, I think, personally.
Yeah, I get to channel this. I'm not sure I can say the word, but
safe space. It's a safe space.
In a person that I get to bring out every day, and so no, I just really enjoy the area. Look, to be serious, one of the things I really enjoy about insolvency is the people that I meet. So when I meet them, they're typically really broken, they're really stressed, and sometimes suicidal. So I just had that one last week, and you know, people feel a lot of pressure when they're under financial pressure. And, you know, once they come in, you know, we work through those problems, we work through a solution. They're like a completely different person just a couple of months later. And it's like this big weight gets lifted off their shoulder. And so, you know, I really enjoy helping people through that really stressful time.
A lawyer that's not motivated by money.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I like money. I do like money, but you know, there's other things as well. Yeah,
no, it's fair. I mean, we don't have the level of stress. You mean like a business owner is effectively their child. They built it, sweat and tears, and now suddenly it's at the worst moment they can imagine.
Yeah,
we have the challenge with people worried about how they're going to fund their retirement, and then stressed, tense, not sure, and then they go home like skipping. There was this one lady that skipped home, which was quite cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It was 20 years ago when Greg met her. But yeah, it's warm and fuzzies.
Yeah.
But what do you see trends in the difference between businesses that end up in that position and ones that don't?
Yeah. There's definitely some trends. And, you know, the big one I see is, you know, the business owner themselves often doesn't have the skill sets required to run their business. You know, they did when it was just them. But I mean, because like if you think about it, kind of classic example I see is in the construction industry. So you see the guy sees the boss earning the big money, has the ute, and he's like, hey, you know, I can do this. So he goes out, he gets a ute, and he starts working. He has no idea how to price the job, you know, and he has no idea how to manage the day to day and the clients because he's just been on the tools. So there's a real steep learning curve when it comes to people who just launch into business like that. And then, you know, you price a job wrong, and you go backwards on your first job, and you go backwards on your second job. It gets pretty tough. And it doesn't even take into account the unexpected things. You know, what if the contractor that you sub to fails and you don't get paid and you priced it right? There's all that comes in as well.
Well, it's massive. It's a challenge. So the guy that does our audio normally is at a dentist appointment. So if the audio doesn't sound as crispy. He's just stepped out for that, but he had that challenge, you know, like I think price is, cause he had a construction company initially and price it's kind of a reflection of self-worth in a sense. So on one hand, you get the market indicators to give you a gauge on what you're worth. But cost is really only a problem in the absence of value, and it's how you instill that in the prospect's mind.
Yeah.
But having that self-worth to be like, hey, I'm actually worth that. Because I have that in this industry. I'm fortunate to work with someone that's older and experienced, so I just price it how he prices it.
Yeah.
But did you have that sort of same challenges in your business when you first started? You're like, okay, I'm going out on my own. What was your sort of mistakes that would give advice to old you?
Hey, we've got enough time.
Yeah, we might, mate. You've got gigs of data on your phone.
Yeah. No, look, so So yeah, I mean, I'm going to say I didn't value my time as much as I should have at the beginning, and it actually took me talking to a mentor who gave me permission to increase my prices. You know, like I had my hourly rate was half what it is now, and I always thought, nah, if I increase it, people are not going to pay that. And then he's like, hey Brent, what's the value of that problem? And when you work out what the value of the problem is that I solved and what I was charging, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I actually doubled my fee, and I was nervous as all hell, because where I can, I offer fixed fees, so it's not like they're getting surprised. So, I quoted this job, which I would usually quote at $5,000, and I was like, no, it was $10,000, and I gave the price, and then I just shut up.
Shake it as
I just like, I'm just going to listen to what he says, and he's probably going to have a problem, and if we can agree on 8, I'll be happy. And it was like, no problem.
Yeah,
$10,000. And I was just like, what the hell? What the hell?
As soon as he leaves, like, yes.
Yeah, a big high five in the office. But it was, I just wasn't valuing my time as much as I should have. So, so that's a big one. And obviously, another one is in the marketing space. So we do a lot of digital marketing. And, it took me a long time to get on video, a lot longer than I should have taken. I was really nervous, record the video, delete it. And again, one of my mentors, it was a terrible video. It was 8 minutes long. It was too long. Audio was crap. Video was crap. I sounded like a feeble little child. And he's like, just post it. He's like, got to lose your V plates. Just go. So posted it. And then I got some good feedback by some supportive people around me. And then I just kind of kept going. But I think if I had done that earlier, I could have been further along in the business as well, because obviously our business relies quite heavily on our marketing as well.
Oh, it's huge. That's the challenge, or it's a good thing for us, is that so many people think bottom line and short term, and they're going to just live off everything they kill day to day, every hustle, and they're relying on outdated processes, like TV marketing, direct mail, intermediaries, and they're leaving so much money on the table. Because one, you look at, like, let's say you're going to do a newspaper ad. You've got one opportunity to capture their attention in a sales pitch orientated way. So all you can really sell on is potentially convenience or price. So now when you go in the digital marketing space, they go to your website, you have the pixel, you can retarget them over and over, and then you can do a simple value add at no added cost to yourself as a means to get their details, and it's a self-feeding machine. It's like referrals at scale. So that's why you're here mainly, you know, obviously your competency, understanding, and but what you're doing in the marketing space and the field that you're in is rare.
It is. And it's something that, because my industry is pretty traditional, and I'll go to a law event, and the question I often get asked is, does it work? And I'm sitting there going, man, you've been watching me for like a few years do this. Would I do it if it didn't work? But I think there's a mixed mindset of in the legal industry of people who look at what I do and probably think that's not how you market a law firm, and other people who go, we want to do this, but the senior partners in our firm won't let us do it. So I've got a small chunk of time, I think, until everyone else will, the younger generation come through, and we're common to see lawyers doing this.
Oh, they always come in too late. So TikTok is very forward thinking for a lot of people, and I bomb it every day. But the reason being is, like, people in Facebook, so they say TikTok, too young audience, it's not commercial, it's not business, like it's just people dancing. What do they say about Facebook? Okay, it's just for college kids. What do they say about Instagram? It's just for photographers. What do they say about LinkedIn? It's just for job sites. So if you want to be on the right side of history, you take a certain risk. But if I'm on TikTok and I never get any client out of that, but I get a relationship, what I have is brand equity. And if I'm making one video and 1 million people are seeing it, that's how many at a year? 1 million views for no cost?
That's awesome.
And my age demographic of the podcast increased. So it's counterintuitive to what everyone's saying.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you make one video, people see it. You collect that data, so cell phone number, email, and then they become on your automated system. And you're adding value with no added cost. So it's like, I don't get it. Like, why? Like, they have a functioning business. They don't have to have new clients all the time. Like our business, no new clients would run for the next 15 to 20 years, just surviving off that subscription service. Why do you think they're not, like, apart from senior people not allowing it, and we'll go on to your competency, but I think you like marketing a bit as well.
Yeah, I
so.
love marketing.
Yeah.
Why do I think they don't do it? Because I think there's a barrier to entry. And the barrier to entry is often tech knowledge. And it's one of those things where, I think a lot of business owners think about the ROI. So if I spend X, what am I going to get out the tail end? And marketing is one of those things that's really hard to quantify. Hey, if I put $100 into Facebook, what's my ROI going to be?
Yeah.
But once you run a system, then you can get those numbers. But up front, it's hard to predict. So, and if they're tech challenged, then they're going to have to pay someone to actually set it up. And let's be fair, I mean, there's some really good people in that digital marketing space, but there's a lot of people that sell snake oil, and you hear the stories, and I've heard so many. And that's why I keep my marketing in-house, because I just want to control it and not have... I just want that agenda to be the same as mine. And so, look, there is definitely some barriers. I probably think the biggest one is around tech and cost. Yeah. And Facebook is... it's not as cheap as it used to be.
Nah.
I mean, I had the best couple of months just after COVID. April, May... bunch of Kiwis pulled out of Facebook from marketing, and I was reaching twice as many people for the same budget I had pre-COVID.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you think of every major corporation, a lot of them were built in those moments.
Yeah.
When everyone's famine and you're investing.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, you got to have that in place with your business to have that capacity at any moment.
Well, I was going to say, as a result of that, I had, like, during my lockdown, I had 80... So I do free 30-minute legal consults. So that's my conversion event. So it's like, got a problem, let's have a chat, talk about the solution. I had like 80 30-minute consults in the 4 weeks of... these are all new prospective clients.
Jesus.
I only converted 2 of them into clients because they all wanted information for free. But, now those people that I helped back then by giving them that information, now they're turning into clients once they've realized DIY didn't work. But... if I'd have turned the switch off and been quite conservative, I wouldn't have had 80 conversations with 80 business owners.
And I think that probably stems, I mean, you did allude to that you like money in some aspect, but you have to have most business I see fail. Obviously, it's lack of self-audit and knowing what they're good at and what they're not and helping that, but just spending something they don't have. And you got to even though it's a dead cash in a sense and it's sitting there, it's not working for you, like having something that you can inject into your business those moments or for an unforeseen event, it must be so important. But we better talk about your competency.
All right.
But insolvency. So, all right, well, firstly, paint the picture of this general sort of person that you add value most to or you come across, and then we'll go into the insolvency bar.
So I suppose I can do what I do on either side of the fence, so for the debtor or for the creditor.
Okay.
So it depends who's on the phone as to what my strategy is going to be.
Okay.
So, like, for example, I could talk about it because it's all in the newspapers. Recently, I helped a group of creditors in the Nido liquidation.
Okay, yeah.
So shareholders appointed a liquidator. Liquidator's in there to do a friendly job. And so we just went around and lobbied the creditors and got that liquidator out and got a feral liquidator in that's going to go do some damage on the directors. And so in that case, act for creditors. But in insolvency, it's more often it's going to be the debtors, so the people who owe the money. So, the people that are up at night thinking about how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to pay their staff. And so obviously if it's a company, there's obviously a lot more options. And if it's an individual who's insolvent, because you can restructure away from a company, it's very difficult to restructure away from yourself. So it's typically a business owner where the business is insolvent.
Okay. So these business owners, they come to you and they're like, all right, I'm stuck. I'm stuffed. People coming for me for money. I'm stressed out. Yeah. What do we do?
So just before we jump to that, no, I'll just jump back in terms of why they're there. So, I mean, usually the catalyst for those conversations is, say, the IRD of commenced liquidation proceedings, or they've issued a statutory demand. And that's the thing that I see often in what we do is, business owners link their identity to their business, and so they will delay the conversation with me as long as possible. And, in 2020, we had 40% less liquidations than the previous years. So, the stimulus, interest-free loans, wage subsidies, that's had an impact. And what it's done is insolvent businesses that should have failed regardless of COVID have been able to get some cash. So they've delayed. And the other thing is the IRD have filed 50% less liquidation applications than previous years as well, which is usually the catalyst for the conversation. So that's why I'm saying this year, second to third quarter, I think it's going to be quite manic. And right now we're in a bit of a false economy. So, you're going to get your standard stats, you're going to get the 40% that should have been last year, and then you're going to get the purely COVID-related and specific industries that got hit pretty hard. So yeah, that's why they're there, and it's usually because they have to be. They don't want to be. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. Like if you're in the job, so you have a job, not so much a business, because you're just in it all the time and you're involved, and then you're helping it build over time. You do the whole sweep it under the rug thing, and then I imagine as well they want a quick turnaround as well, so they're like push it to the last week. Oh yeah, Brent's got to fucking turn this around overnight. But so they come in the door. What are the things that you would help them and alleviate that stress that you're talking about?
So it really depends on the situation and whether and how they feel about the business. So do they want to save it? Because sometimes they actually just want to walk away.
Okay.
So. One of the guys I spoke to recently, it's been his business for 45 years. He's just done. He's just been screwed time and time again. He just wants to walk away. So the strategy for winding it down and walking away is obviously different to someone who wants to keep their business. And so if they want to keep their business, generally there's a couple of strategies we can look at. One is talking to creditors, and it's just about having hard conversations and having those conversations up front. If we can get on a payment arrangement, get it over time, something that both parties can live with, that's often what we do is we're negotiating different payment terms.
Okay.
It could be landlord, could be IRD. If it's IRD, it's a great time to cut a deal. So because they've got this mandate to just be a little bit chill, which again I think that'll end in second to third quarter. They're going to have to pick up some of these debts. I did one recently where it was $400,000 tax debt, and we reduced it down to $50,000 and 3 years to pay. And this is this is interest penalties and core write-offs, which pre-COVID, good luck. Yeah. So you're looking at compromising with creditors either informally or formally is one way. Otherwise, it's looking at the Phoenix company structures. So. Start point is Phoenix companies are illegal. You can't establish a Phoenix company. A Phoenix company is a company run by the director with a similar name. But there's exceptions to that. So ABC Builders becomes ABC 2021, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's some exceptions to that. And so if you run the exceptions, then you can do it legitimately, and you can take all of the good things out of the business, like the assets and the staff, secured creditors, and leave what you don't want, which is the unsecured creditors. Which, and if I'm acting for the shareholders, that's what we do. If I'm acting for the creditors, I'll try and frustrate that process, and I can play both of those coins.
Do you have a cognitive dissonance, a challenge with your two mindsets? You're like, I'm this guy, I'm that guy.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things. It's
just fun.
It's one of those things where
both are right.
You see the difference between kind of morality and equity. So, what we do is, it's ethical, so it complies with our ethical obligations. But sometimes you look at it and you just from a moral perspective, it can be challenging. When you're restructuring and there's going to be some creditors that get burnt. I don't mind so much if it's the IRD because I know the money's just going to be wasted anyway at the moment.
So IRD, no moral
The
quiet.
IRD don't listen to this. Right?
Yeah, no. They blocked them out of this.
Yeah, good.
Jeez. All right. Well, is it so? In fairness, really, people like that are running those zombie companies that are like not profitable to a degree. They've been buffered by this thing. Should actually be calling you right now.
Yeah,
to negotiate with the IRD.
Yeah. There's an opportunity to cut deals that won't be there soon. Yeah.
Huh. We got to make sure this podcast comes out before the second or third quarter. We've got a bit of a backlog, unfortunately. All right. Well, what about what about structuring your affairs in advance? So you're starting your business. You foresee that there could be this creditor issue or debtors, or what can you do and what should you think about doing?
Yeah. So, if you're a business owner, you need to be looking at whether you need a trust in place. So having a trust in place to hold your own assets is always quite wise. Because if the company fails, you're given PGs. If a liquidator pursues you for reckless trading, the fact that you don't personally own assets will serve you later. And it's one of those things where you have the option to pull your assets out of the trust and pay if you need to, or you can just sit on it and say, no, bankrupt me. So I think if there's any chance that business could fail, and let's be fair, most businesses have a chance of failure, then making sure you have that trust up front. And look, depending on the business, you might have trading entities and holding entities with assets and IP that's leased across to the trading entity. So if the trading entity fails, then you still have control of all the assets and IP and can continue. Shareholder structures and making sure that you have a robust shareholder agreement, because on the other side of the coin of insolvency is, what if the business actually does really well? And then, and this is where I see all the shareholder disputes, is when you're in the trenches and you're building a business, there's not tons of money in the bank yet, you're not generally going to have a dispute with your shareholder. But as soon as there's cash in the bank, like lots of cash, that's typically when people start fighting, and things like, I get more clients, I do more work, I manage more of the team, all these things start to fester. So having a really robust shareholders agreement in place to manage that can just avoid seeing a lawyer like me as well, because you can just implement the terms of the agreement quite effectively.
What makes it robust?
Have all of the hard conversations at the time you're drafting it, because I think how most people do it, and lawyers don't help, is they'll go to the lawyer, I need a shareholders agreement, and they don't have much money because it's a startup. So they put the lawyer on a pinch, and then they end up getting a shareholders agreement for like $2,000 to $4,000, which will get them a template with their name on it. Effectively, that's what a lot of firms sell at that price point. A good, robust shareholder agreement is going to cost you at least 20, 25 grand.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really about going through all of the agreement in detail and actually talking to each other and mapping out all of the what ifs, because, your business will be different to mine, and your business partner will be different. I don't have one, but the dynamics are different, so you need to cater for all of that. And I suppose managing change in the business, because what you were as a startup is not what you're going to hope to be in 5 years. So what if there's a star performer? What if someone is doing more or getting more? I mean, how are we going to deal with that? Because most startups are just equal. We're both going to work full time, and we're going to get 50-50. Like
next minute.
Yeah. Someone has a baby and now they're working reduced hours, and so you need to cater for all of those things, so you don't have someone feeling aggrieved down the line.
Makes sense. I'd be curious as well, because in our field we deal with relationship property in a lot of sense. We try to act it as a generalist. Greg's done his law degree, but we just try and find areas of concern, then outsource it. Yeah. But we're seeing a lot of pushback on trust and their validity and ability to protect in relationship problems. Yeah. Do you find that from the debtors and the creditors, they're coming after trust and they get an opportunity, or do you see where trusts aren't quite working, like they're not doing the gifting process, or
and
they're using it like a personal thing, or
Okay. So I don't get involved in the establishment or management of trusts. Okay. So we don't do any of the GP work, but we do get involved in disputes. And a couple of years ago there was the Clayton decision, which was a relationship property dispute between a ex-husband and wife, and that's a really influential decision in how trust can be busted in New Zealand, and we're just waiting on an opportunity for a creditor to take the same approach, because that was a wife to husband dynamic, but the way they interpreted property and the way that they bust that deed can be used by creditors, particularly the official assignee has some really interesting rights.
Okay.
But they haven't done anything yet. But it's just a matter of time before trust will be vulnerable from creditors. And in Australia, they've applied the same rationale from a creditor's perspective as well. And so, yeah, look, trusts are nowhere near as safe as they once were. And it comes down to a few things. One is the powers that are in the trust. So if you set up a trust, but you still have all of the control you would as if it's your own property, then that's very easy to bust.
Makes sense.
If you establish a trust, but you're not doing all the maintenance, and it's at least annually, and all the gifting that's required, then there's some vulnerabilities in there as well. So there are definitely opportunities for creditors to attack trusts.
All right. Well, we heard it here first. Hopefully we find a solution, mate. Jeez. It is sad. Like, we have instances, for example, a couple, one of them was paying off the mortgage with a trust. The first one actually owned it. And then, so obviously the trust became a potential part owner of the house.
Yeah.
But then she wasn't a beneficiary. So now she's stuck in this house and can't do much with it. And it's a really sad thing. And it's something I don't know enough about. Like, we're the product effectively in our industry, same with your industry. So I want to understand that competency, even like, let's say a client comes on, there's an insolvency issue.
Yeah.
I want to have an understanding to at least help, kind of like a tangible life coach.
Yeah.
How do you upskill in what you do? Do you just subscribe to a newsletter? Do you read case studies every 2 minutes, or how do you stay on it? Yeah.
So look, it's an evolving practice area. And, insolvency law has changed so much when I started versus now. And even when the legislation is exactly the same, you end up with, a judge saying one thing and then years later saying another. And, the classic example I had was there was about avoidable transaction, and there were judges that went both ways, and there were completely different interpretations on this legislation. And I had this case, and I was real excited because I had the judge that interpreted it the way that I wanted. Stood up in court, and then his first words out of his mouth were, "Mr. Norling, I've changed my view." And he went the complete opposite as he did in his own previous decision.
Oh, God.
And so, to keep up to date, you just need to keep reading the cases that are coming out of the High Court, and it's what we do. And so I'm an author of a couple of books, and there's review dates that happen each quarter, and so that forces me to actually review the cases that have come out in the last quarter.
Okay.
See if there's been any updates, and then if there has, update the chapter. So, and I'm really grateful to be a part of that, because if I wasn't, I probably procrastinate it just a little bit longer.
It's easy.
Yeah.
The challenge is, like, I love learning. Yeah. But it's like prioritizing what, where to learn, and then also taking the time to learn.
Yeah.
I try to have the process of 6 days a week. So on Saturdays is strategic thinking and expanding knowledge.
Okay.
But quite often your other work drags into you. I got to focus. But it's detriment. Like if you can add all the value in one place to your client, so if I build a relationship with a client, they know I have a certain understanding, but I've also got a network of people surrounding them.
Totally.
Saves them time. Do you have something like that you incorporate in your surrounding value add?
Yeah, totally. So my practice is it's not a general practice. We don't do all areas of law. So my view is, to be successful, you need to do what you're good at and what you enjoy.
Agree.
And, I think I'm good at this area, and I also enjoy it. So, I don't add in all the other practice areas. So for me, it is definitely about having a network of other law firms that I can refer clients to, and vice versa. Yeah. And it's about, because especially when it comes to law, we all have our little pockets of knowledge, and I just don't think that one person can practice, multiple areas. So I agree. It's about having a network around you that can support your clients.
Do you ever have a network of competitors?
Network of competitors.
Learning from them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm obsessed with my competitors.
There's a couple that one in particular who's right at the end of his career, so almost at retirement age.
Were you going to buy his business?
No. He's taught me a lot, and it's in my earlier days, it was from being on the other side of him on disputes, So you come across these real senior practitioners, and they're real collegial as well. So they're not like the younger generation is real adversarial.
Yeah.
So the old guys are like, they'll take you under their wing, and it's quite good. Yeah.
Well, one of the most valuable lessons I learned early on in sales. So I did commission selling because people scare me. Yeah. I wanted to get over that.
Okay.
So I got better at it, and so there was a moment where one of the guys I was training, he's like, "Why do you compete with other people in the office?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I just want to win." And he said, "Well, that's counterintuitive. That's actually a scarcity mindset." So the fact that I was actually consciously or unconsciously handicapping the competitors in the office itself, which is a very dangerous culture to create in your organization, because you can make competition on process, but when it's on results, they're incentivized to not help the other person. So it's a different culture. But so now, anytime I come across anyone, even if they're a competitor, I'm happy to add value, and in a way that I feel like they're leeching and they're not respecting my time, I'll say, hey, boundaries. I don't want this. But if they collectively improve the perception of financial planners, because this is a bad perception, probably has in your field as well. So if they all collectively grow, it's like as a tide rides, all boats rise with it. Do you have a newsletter, or did you mention a book and you're changing the chapters, or I heard that wrong?
No, so there's
probably better than my book. I wrote it quick.
Yeah, I've got a few internal books, which are...
I'm just going to subscribe. I want to learn from you, mate.
Do it.
All right.
So I've got 3 books. So one's on directors' risks, one's on business hibernation, and one's on insolvency. So those are on the website. So those are real easy to update when we need to. But I'm also, I contribute to Heath and Whale on insolvency, which is like the leading text in New Zealand on insolvency that judges and other practitioners use, and it's a loose leaf. So it's run by LexisNexis. And
what's it called? Heath
and Whale.
Okay.
Two absolute beast insolvency practitioners. One's an ex-Court of Appeal judge, and he's come back out to practice, and Mike Whale's the other one. And so they they're the authors, and then they have a bunch of other insolvency lawyers that contribute to it. We have a chapter each. So
is it international then?
It's on New Zealand insolvency law.
Good.
Yeah. So see, they've got a hard copy that comes out every couple of years, and they've got the loose leaf, which you update chapters kind of every quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a lot of respect the way you're doing things. I think you got the head on screwed on right, because like one obviously the consultancy, the 30-minute, that's an investment, the marketing and the value add, thinking strategically long term. So I want to know your vision. What's the long term goal if everything worked out well? Yeah, and also like the implementation, like your point of difference. Like I want to build a free online university around finance. Yeah, and build a network of instructors that could be competitors, but or accountants and lawyers, and talk. Anyway, it's enough about me. What's your vision, mate?
Man, I think, for me, I want Norling Law to be the best insolvency litigation practice in New Zealand. That's my broad vision. And, I suppose how I'm doing that is it's all about, we have a commitment to excellence. So internally, our processes are all designed to produce excellent work. I want to hire A players that are going to help get us all to that point as well. And then, like in terms of what I'm doing on a day-to-day, I'm currently working on a really, really awesome internal training platform where it's all training videos, and it's going to be upskilling the team on, so as we bring new people in, they can just learn far quicker than at a scalable way, because right now every time I have to train someone, because we're growing, I'm just training people all day basically. So just trying to build better systems and processes that will help us achieve that goal.
It's so important. The scale, that's my concern now. Like Greg built his business from relationships, and it's only like 2 appointments a week that are qualified, they know how much money and there's a need. But the problem is once you reach scale, so we've got an administrative platform with a fund manager that does all the investing. But if this marketing kicks off like I believe it will, you being able to handle that scale, process needs to be slick. Because if you don't operationally deliver on the brand promise, then no more brand. So I'm glad you're thinking of that. And what would be, as we wrap this up, I think you might want to say something before that, it seemed like.
No,
Okay.
Good.
What would be something that you would want people to know as you wrap this up? And also, how would they find you? It's not hard once you go on your website.
Yeah. What I want people to know. I suppose most of the issues that we deal with come down to a failure to communicate well and a failure to have hard conversations early. So I suppose a key takeaway from anyone who needs my service would be, communicate up front. Don't put your head in the sand, because that's what most people do in a hard situation, and have a hard conversation. How do you find me? Website, norlinglaw.co.nz, and there's a booking link in there to my calendar if anyone wants to have a chat.
Is it Calendly?
I use Schedule Once.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
All right, well, that'll be in the description. Not the website, and also I think your LinkedIn will be a good thing to point and call.
Yeah.
Some entertaining stuff there. Yeah, it's funny. Like the glasses down, you're like, oh, why does everyone want to approach me at Christmas? Like, oh, this is the face. Yeah. I've been keeping an eye on you, brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, also thanks to nzaudioeditors.com, and yeah, cheers for coming, mate.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.